In today's world, the race for influence is not fought on battlefields but in markets, ports, universities, and technology hubs. Nowhere is this more visible than in Africa, a continent rich in resources, talent, and opportunities. For 2 decades, China stood as Africa's most dominant partner, building massive railways, ports, and stadiums under its Belt and Road Initiative. Trade between China and Africa crossed $295 billion by 2024, and Chinese state banks pumped nearly $170 billion into loans and projects since 2000. These moves gave Beijing unmatched influence, but they also left many African nations burdened with debt, struggling under opaque loan terms, and facing criticism over the lack of local job creation and skills transfer. As doubts grow about China's debt-driven approach, another Asian power is quietly rewriting the script: India. India's engagement with Africa is not based on headline-grabbing megaprojects but on building long-term partnerships, empowering local industries, and creating mutual growth. India's trade with Africa, though smaller at around $100 billion in 2024, is expanding rapidly, with investments growing by about 18% annually since 2003. Unlike China's model, India's investments are spread across diverse sectors such as pharmaceuticals, agriculture, manufacturing, education, energy, and information technology. Indian companies focus on local capacity building rather than importing large workforces, allowing African businesses to grow alongside Indian partners. This has made India a trusted player in places like Kenya, where it recently surpassed China as the top Asian trading partner, signaling a shift in economic ties. India is also backing its economic vision with financial and developmental support. It has extended about $9 billion in concessional credit to African nations, with $7.4 billion worth of projects currently underway. Between 2002 and 2021, India provided more than $11 billion in grants and aid, including scholarships, vaccine diplomacy during the pandemic, and healthcare infrastructure support. While these figures may seem small compared to China's, India's approach emphasizes transparency and sustainability, avoiding the debt trap narrative that now surrounds Beijing's Belt and Road loans. Beyond trade and aid, India is emerging as a credible security partner for Africa, particularly in the Indian Ocean region. In April 2025, India launched the first Africa-India Key Maritime Engagement, or AIKUME, with 9 African nations participating in joint naval exercises off Tanzania's coast. These drills focused on anti-piracy, search and rescue, and maritime security, and were followed by India's largest ever naval exercises in African waters, involving countries like Kenya, Mauritius, Madagascar, Djibouti, and South Africa. These partnerships signal that India is not just a trading partner but also a security ally, offering balance in a region where China has built military footholds. Such as its base in Djibouti, on the ground, Indian companies are making a lasting impact. In Nigeria, India is among the largest investors, with $20 billion in commitments and over 200 companies operating in sectors like telecom, consumer goods, and healthcare. Bilateral trade reached $14.9 billion in 2022. In Ghana, Indian investments exceed $2 billion across over 700 projects in industries from agro-processing to telecom, with trade volumes reaching $3.3 billion by 2023. India is also helping African nations develop digital and telecom infrastructure, even outcompeting Chinese companies in some cases, such as by supporting Ghana's decision to keep 5G development locally focused rather than dependent on Chinese vendors. India's own industrial rise strengthens its position. Under initiatives like Make in India and production-linked incentives, India has become a major electronics and smartphone exporter. Some Chinese brands now manufacture in India and ship products to African markets labeled Made in India, signaling a shift in supply chains that reduces China's dominance in consumer electronics across the continent. This shift benefits African nations that seek affordable technology without the geopolitical strings sometimes attached to Chinese deals. Experts caution that China is still Africa's largest partner by far, and India is not yet overtaking it on sheer scale. China's trade volume, lending, and infrastructure presence remain unmatched. But India's model, focused on skills, jobs, transparency, and diversified sectors, offers a more sustainable alternative. As Africa seeks partners who help build rather than control, India's steady rise represents a different vision, growth through collaboration rather than dependency. Looking ahead, analysts project India-Africa trade could double to $200 billion by 2030, driven by pharmaceuticals, agriculture, automotive manufacturing, digital services, and critical minerals. India's approach, rooted in the Kampala Principles announced in 2018, prioritizes education, healthcare, connectivity, and open markets. These values resonate strongly with African governments seeking development without the baggage of predatory debt. The story of Africa's partnerships is far from over. China remains a giant presence, but India is emerging as a partner of choice for nations that want growth, skills, and shared prosperity rather than dependency. Through trade, technology, aid, and security, India is not trying to replace China overnight but to offer Africa a lasting alternative. In the decade ahead, as supply chains shift, industries grow, and maritime links deepen, Africa may increasingly turn toward India, not because of loans or pressure, but because of trust and opportunity. The rise of India in Africa is not just about competing with China, it is about redefining what global partnerships can look like in the 21st century.